On the court at Renaissance Coliseum, we welcome you into the Bradley Basketball pregame show. Joey Wright alongside Brock Stotler and Ben Line-Neumann, counting you down to Bradley's action in the Rue Classic coming up here in just a couple of days. Guys, it's been a fun season for the Bradley women's basketball team. They haven't lost yet. Wins in the Coastal Carolina Classic and against some big opponents. So, Brock, we'll start with you. Takeaways from the early portion of Bradley's women's season.
Well, first, over the Thanksgiving weekend, they were in the Coastal Carolina tournament, and they've won 7 in a row since that 20-point loss to Michigan earlier in the season. So they've really rebounded nicely. And they had 2 very close victories against George Mason and Richmond. First, for the George Mason game, Lacey Petrie stepped up in that one, had a big game for Bradley, led the way with 18. Chelsea Brackman's had a weird start to the season. She's got a lot of rebounds, has shot the ball efficiently, just hasn't really had the shot attempts yet necessarily. So good for her to get back in double figures in this one. Another double-double for her. And then as well, Nyjah White got in double figures for her 5th time for Bradley this season, so she's been a nice, consistent scoring threat for Bradley. Good to see there. They dominated the glass, had a big game rebounding. The one cause for concern, though, they did have 22 turnovers, so they really got to cut down on that because that's not going to put you in a position to win against any of those good teams, especially in the Valley. So got to make sure that they do a better job of taking care of the ball in that one, but still a good win, good grinded-out win. And then against Richmond, Lacey Petrie continued her hot weekend, had 19 again in this one, so another big game for her. Chelsea Brackman, business as usual, another double-double for her. And Gabby Hawk, after getting held scoreless in the first game, rebounds nicely, gets back in double figures for her as well. You know, Richmond, Bradley really did a good job of contesting, running them off the three-point line and not fouling. Outshot Richmond 22-5 at the three-point line, from the free throw line, which is really why I thought they won the game. Bradley did a very bad job of taking care of the ball again, over 20 turnovers, but they still were able to squeak away with the win against the not-so-inferior opponent. So good classic for them. Good 2 wins before Thanksgiving.
Sure. And Ben?
Yeah, they also had 2 really solid wins against North Dakota State and Jackson State. First starting out with North Dakota State. They won 70-64, and after a very, very close first half, they were able to really dominate on the defensive end in the second half. Lacey Petrie scored her career high here at Bradley with 30 points, while also adding 6 rebounds, and with very efficient scoring. And Gabby Hawk was able to really add on to that with 21 of her own points as well. And one thing that I really enjoyed watching in this game is that they were able to score 70 points from only 4 of their players. Lacey scored 30, Gabby scored 21, and then Tatum and Nyjah White were also able to help them in the scoring. So I really enjoyed that. Going to Jackson State now, they won that game 79-68, and something I really loved is that they still continue to dominate from the defensive end. Tatum was able to score 23 points in that game, while also adding on 6 assists and 5 rebounds and a steal. So I think that if she can even keep up with that, they are in a really good position to win some more games.
And Ben, I was on the call for ESPN Plus against Jackson State. It was great to see Tatum step up and have such a big game. Bradley, they can lean on her more as the season goes along if she keeps up that output.
Yeah, for sure. I think that going to the season, Bradley was really looking for a point guard that can really take over a game and really facilitate the floor, and I think Tatum has really turned out to be that kind of player.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I was a little mistaken earlier. Bradley, of course, a loser to Michigan in the second game of the year. But other than that, I mean, that lone loss to a ranked Michigan team, not a bad loss by any means. And Bradley, they can continue this as we approach the Rue Classic, Eastern Washington and Liberty. So, Brock, we'll start with you. How does Bradley get it done in Kansas City?
Well, first against Liberty, I think Bradley does have a 10-day break coming into that Liberty game. So it will be interesting to see how they come out. Could be a little rusty coming out with that one, but this Liberty team, a chance for Bradley to get another win against a Liberty team that hasn't been great to start the season. They don't really have they will match up pretty well in terms of size, but Bradley does have to make sure that they do a good job of watching the Flames' best player, the 6'1" forward Kean Green, who is the Lady Flames' leading scorer and rebounder. They have scoring in moderation up and down the lineup, not a lot, nothing that really pops out to you. I think if Bradley can take care of the ball and can shake off some of that rust from not playing within 10 days, I think they are going to put themselves in a great position to win this ball game.
Yeah, I agree with what Brock said. And one area in particular that I think they really need to focus on is I think they really need to continue their defensive play. They've played really phenomenal defense, able to shut down their teams. I know against North Dakota State, they were able to shut them down to 27% from the field in the second half compared to 61% in the first half. And for the Jackson State game, they were able to bring them down to around 30% field goal percentage. So I think if they can keep that defensive consistency going, they shouldn't have any problems with Liberty or Eastern Washington.
Certainly two matchups that on paper look like they favor Bradley. And while we're on the subject of the Rue Classic, guys, we'll get into our MVC picks here in just a couple minutes. But picks to click. Who steps up in Kansas City for Bradley individually and keys any sort of a charge?
I have Tatum Koenig. She's really had the best game of her career here at Bradley in that last one against Jackson State, as Ben mentioned, scoring career-high 23 points. She's been in double figures the last 2 games in a row, which is really good to see because she's so far her time here at Bradley hasn't really been much about offense. It's been more of her on the defensive end and as a facilitator. But like Ben mentioned, I do think it is nice to see her step up, and because if she can become a consistent offensive weapon for Bradley, that's going to make this team even more dangerous as the season continues to go on and as they continue to enter Valley play. So it's a good time for Bradley and Tatum Koenig to be hitting their strides this season.
Yeah, and speaking of offensive consistency, my pick to click is going to be Laisha Petrie. I absolutely love her game. I love that she can really spark up points in an instance. I really love how lengthy of a player she is. Really long arms, makes it really easy for her to get rebounds, steal the ball, block shots. So I think that she will have a really good game against Liberty.
Mm-hmm. And Ben, that size, she only stands about 6 feet tall, but that length really allows her to play both ways. Can hurt you as a guard and as a forward.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, it can also, because she can play both guards, the guard position and the forward position. So when she's playing guard, it's really easy for her to get her shot up over smaller guards because, like you said, she is 6 feet tall, really lengthy arms. So it's really easy to get her shot up over smaller players.
I think when you have players like that who are tall, like she is, that can play both those positions, it's nice because we can throw her in there at forward and not have to worry about her being too short and getting outmatched on the boards. But when you switch her to guard, she is still quick enough and still does have that skill set to get around smaller players and get her shot up and still be efficient. So I think that's really good to see for Bradley.
Absolutely, guys. So now taking a look at our Missouri Valley Conference pick'em, couple of intriguing matchups to watch this week. Let's start with a MVC Big Ten matchup. It's Evansville and Illinois, and earlier this season, I rightly predicted Illinois State to beat Illinois. I think Evansville will fall to the Illini this week, but I think it's a good opportunity for the Purple Aces to get a key win.
I had Illinois in this one. Like you mentioned, I think that this is a good chance for Illinois to get their Valley revenge after Illinois State did beat them earlier in the season. They're a little bit of in-state rivalry, but freshman Kennedy Miles for Illinois has really stepped up very nicely. He's put together a very great freshman season, nearly averaging a double-double. Senior Allie Andrews has stepped up nicely as well, averaging career highs in both points and rebounds. Those two are really the only offensive weapons for Illinois, so if they can get them going early, Evansville's going to have a problem stopping them, and I think Illinois can roll to this win.
Yeah, I also have Illinois. So far they're 7-2, have been playing really nice basketball. And one piece that I really like that they play is that they shoot the three ball really, really well. Currently shooting at 37%. And if they can shoot that consistently against Evansville, I don't see them having an issue.
Certainly. So consensus Illinois. And then moving to an OVC-MVC matchup, it's Southern Illinois and Murray State, the Salukis and the Racers. Guys, who do we like in this one? I'm going to go with Southern Illinois.
I have Murray State in this one. I think they complete the 3-game Missouri Valley sweep after wins over Evansville and Indiana State earlier this season. Macy Turley has had a nice second season for the Racers this season, bumped her scoring up to 19 points per game. and has really been that go-to scoring option for Murray State. Just had her 40th or her fourth 20-point game of the season. Her backcourt mate, Lex Mays, had a slower start to the season, but has rattled off 5 straight games in double figures to really get her season back on track. Those two are the great guard play as those main 2 scorers, but they are consistent throughout the lineup. Every starter averages 6.5 or more. So great scoring and depth for Murray State. So I think that they win this one here pretty handily against Southern Illinois.
Yeah, well, while Murray State is a good team, I'm going to have to go with the Salukis on this one. One thing I like about them is that they shoot the ball phenomenal. Like so far this season, they're shooting 47% from the field and 38% from 3. They also have returning junior Mackenzie Sylvie, who is currently averaging 20 points for the Salukis. I think this could be a pretty good win for them.
It'll be a fun one to watch. Could go either way. And then our last game, little in-state bragging rights, Missouri and Missouri State. SEC, that's where Missouri is now, and of course Missouri State. How do you guys see this one playing out? I want to get your opinions before I jump in and make my pick, if that's not cheating.
Of course not. I have Missouri State in this one. You know, they do have 11 days off, so there could be that rust again to come out of the game. But they're ranked 20th in the country, and they're playing very well. I mean, they've rattled off 4 straight wins since losing that heartbreaking 11-point loss to number 7 Oregon State, which is really a good game for Missouri State. Good chance to see them get those games like this on their schedule. So, you know, Alexa Willard has been huge for the Lady Bears this year. She's averaging almost 19 points a game, and I personally think she's the front runner for Valley Player of the Year, as they've really distanced themselves from Drake. I think that Missouri State's making a case for the best team in the Valley. Bryce Caleb and Jasmine Franklin are both averaging double figures for Missouri State as well, giving them a nice little 3-headed monster there as Valley play starts. So I think Missouri State wins this one.
Yeah, I have to agree with Brock. I'm going to have to go with Missouri State as well. You know, currently 8-1, beat really good teams like number 23 at the time, Minnesota, and obviously, as Brock pointed out, the very close game to Oregon State. One thing, again, that I really like about them is their shooting percentage. Currently shooting a field goal percentage of 46% and a three-point percentage of 41, which is incredible. I don't think that Missouri State is going to have any issues being Missouri in this state matchup.
So make it consensus Missouri State, and that'll wrap up our Valley Pick'em. So, guys, we're about out of time here on the pregame show, but first, any final thoughts as we approach the Rue Classic?
Yeah, non-conference game to take a look at before the conference schedule starts is number 20 Missouri State versus number 17 Gonzaga. Tipping next Friday, big game. You know, and the third-ranked opponent that Missouri State will play in their non-conference schedule. They're 1-1 in those such games. Like Ben mentioned, they did beat number 23 Minnesota earlier in the season, and then did lose that tough game to Oregon State. So you know, potential resume-boosting game for Missouri State. It is on the road. So the Lady Bears are going to have to make sure that they come into Spokane, Washington, focused and ready to play, because Gonzaga is no joke. They are number 17 in the country. They have a lot of size. They have twin sisters, Leanne and Jen Worth, are both 6'3". So that is elite level size that Missouri State's going to have to deal with. So they need to make sure that they are boxing out, playing good defense, and can't let them get behind them, or this game could get very ugly against a talented Gonzaga team. They just got to make sure they come out there and play focused and give Gonzaga a good game. For the Valley, you know, Valley teams are tough, and I think Missouri State is never an easy out, and neither is Gonzaga. So I think this is going to be a very, very highly anticipated, very good matchup.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have a matchup to look at. I just want to mention something about the Braves. We haven't mentioned this yet, but they are currently leading the entire NCAA in defensive rebounds, which is something amazing. They get their boards, and they've been without Chelsea Brackman a good portion of the season so far. And the fact that they still been able to get rebounds off of Laisha Petrie, Nija White, and Emily Marsh has been a really nice thing to see.
No, certainly a force on the boards. They've got a lot of players down low that can step up and make an impact. That'll about do it for us on the pregame show. Counting you down to the Rue Classic. Bradley with Liberty and Eastern Washington on the dock. For Ben Line-Neumann and Brock Stotler, I'm Joey Wright. Now out to Kansas City.